What's up, folks? You believe that? Hold on. Do you believe that? Please.
Buffs Nation, what's up? What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. Happy to be back. Gotta adjust this camera. I know y'all don't want to be looking at the ceiling fan too much, but hey, let me know who's listening. Hey, and we got Demand Above joining the fellas. Thank you so much. Appreciate the support as always. $4.99 a month. You get some really cool emojis. I'll make sure to highlight your chats a little bit more than everybody else. Let me know if you got any questions. Demand Above. I'm excited to dive into this. Went ahead and sent a link to my good friend Rawhide. See if he wants to hop on. I'm not sure if he'll be able to, but thought I'd take a few questions. And this was kind of prompted by listener of the show, friend of the show, Alpha Roo. So we're going to get to that here in just a minute. But yeah, hey, Alpha Roo's in here. What's going on? I'm going to talk about your question that you gave me. And this is going to be pretty interesting. Zion, how's it going? How do you feel about the Packers DC hire? How do you feel about it? Hopefully you feel good about it. But congratulations on that. So, hey, let me cut the music. We'll get right to it. I got a meeting that I got to hop on at 1, but really wanted to get on here and talk with the fellas a little bit. Hey, and appreciate all the support that we saw in the Cormani video. Man, I got this chain going the wrong way. This is annoying, but hey, on the Cormani video, I mean, that was just awesome. And again, to see a guy like that turning the corner, it's great. Hey, exactly. Hey, we got a DC before CU. I was on Scobuffs Daily Twitter space earlier today. They asked me, David, are we getting a DC today? Hell no. Absolutely not, guys. We're not getting a DC until we get one. So I'm not believing anything. What Coach Prime is saying. I guess Bucky was on their space yesterday saying, sometimes, man, Coach Prime says some things that, should you have said that? I don't know. You might be over-promising a little bit like that. But, hey, that's the type of stuff, with Coach Prime being here in Boulder, like, you got to expect a little bit of that. Sometimes there's going to be some hype, some extra hype. I mean, what is this without something to talk about every day, right? So it doesn't really bother me. I think it's hilarious. CU Buffs Dynasty, what's going on? Hope you're having a great day. I love CC. Awesome. Well, with that being said, let's get into, I guess this is a one-question mailbag, but I will take some more questions as long as I have time. But I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that way you guys can kind of see Alpha Roo's question. And I thought, he threw this in the comments, and I thought, this would be a good topic for a video, So give me 1 second. Okay. I think we got it. Yeah. Okay. So Alpha Roo came in, dropped this question in the comments in one of my videos yesterday. He said, David, tell me your thoughts about the comment below. It's an honest question. FIU 4-8. Houston 4-8. IND, is that Indiana? Yeah, 3-9. ASU 3-9. Pitt 3-9. UConn 3-9. Cincy 3-9. This is the overall records of all the portal players teams that CU has gotten that are predicted to start and actually have played significant time at previous schools. Won't count the LSU and Bama kids because none of them played any significant snaps. It's very true. Should we be concerned that these players don't come from winning programs? Do you think sometimes finding winners is more important than finding projected talent when your team is fresh off of a last place losing season? Wonderful question, Alpha Roo. And I do want to preface my answer by saying I haven't played team sports in how old am I now? 14 years. So I might not be the best guy to ask, about this. But I want to say that I think it makes a difference to some degree. But I think the biggest thing is, what are our coaches doing to making sure that they're applying, the right standards, the right accountability, and the right coaching? I think definitely at this level, that's probably what matters the most. But Alfaru, I would also be interested, hear what you have to say. Um, is because you played for the Cowboys, right? Right. But this is how I kind of look at it. I think the coaching and the culture that they put in is the biggest factor when it comes to building a winning culture. I think we do have guys on this team that are winners. And there are a few other guys that I think I can share here and highlight. We can kind of go through the transfer portal, but I do want to say, outside of maybe the top, 20 or 30 guys in the transfer portal, not a lot of these guys that enter the portal come from big time winning programs. If they played significant roles, usually if these guys are producing at a already winning program, the odds are that they're going to not hit the portal. But that's why I wouldn't mind. I mean, for instance, like bringing in a guy like Reese Atterbury. He only played, I think, about 40 snaps this year at Michigan, but having some of those guys come in here because they understand like what championship football looks like, right? They understand what that standard was, what it looked like every day at Michigan to get to where they were at. That's why it's like, yeah, like I like the idea of bringing in guys like Quincy Wiggins and Anquan Barnes, and see if they can carve out a higher role for themselves. But a lot of times, like, hey, if Barnes or Quincy Wiggins already had significant roles on their team, they would be staying there because they're winning teams. But let me go to here. Yes. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the guys who have entered the portal from winning programs, I mean, they're from some top schools. Alabama obviously had a coaching change. Same with Washington, for instance. But outside of that, I mean, you got guys that are transferring from Texas A&M, which I think they only had. I think they went 4-4 in the SEC this year. I think they finished with a slightly with a winning record though. Oregon State, these guys had a coaching change as well at quarterback. UCLA, Dante Moore, was he a starter? Was he the backup? I mean, I don't know. Guys like Caden Green, yes, it would have been great if we could bring in some of these guys that are, coming that were previously at programs like Oklahoma or Georgia. But, outside of kind of the top, 20, 30 guys, a lot of these guys are coming from programs that, didn't win a ton. We saw a handful of guys jump in from Purdue, for instance. A lot of guys from Houston jumped in because they had a coaching change, if I remember correctly. Riley Leonard, coaching change, right? Yeah, because his coach went to A&M. So, I mean, it would be nice. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing that's going to help this team instill a winning culture is the accountability and the coaching that the coaches provide, making sure that these guys are prepared. Coach Woldholt coming in here and holding the offensive line to a much higher standard than what we saw this past year with Bill O'Boyle. Having Pat Shurmur a full year with the offense under his control. Regardless of what you think about Pat Shurmur, I mean, the man can really he can command a room. He was an NFL head coach for the New York Giants. Okay. So, yeah, like you're having guys that are coming in here that have been at that highest level. Some of them have coached at that highest level, and they understand what winning looks like. But from a player perspective, I think, again, this past year, it's really hard when you're bringing in 70 new players. Most of the guys that jump in the portal overall, they're not coming from these big time winners, or if they were, they weren't playing significant snaps for the most part. I mean, I don't think Vanderbilt won a game this past year in conference, right? So, like, you could say that about Will Shepherd, but I think Will Shepherd is, one of those guys that's going to establish himself as a leader, especially in this wide receiver group. And I don't know. I guess maybe I should do a case study on other teams that have used the portal to, their advantage. But for instance, if you look at Florida State or whatnot, I would be interested to see kind of who were the guys that they brought in from the portal. My hunch or my guess is that, a lot of those guys came from programs that are kind of similar to, where we're getting guys from. So let me go ahead and take a look at like our roster right now. And I think the biggest thing is that like all these guys that we're bringing in at the high school level, not only are they studs, but they've also won a lot of football games. Brandon Davis Swain, state champion. Jordan Seaton, IMG Academy. That's big time. Eric Brantley, Valdosta. I forget how Statesboro and Baldwin did, but these are very good programs, okay? And I wanted to highlight some other guys coming out here, like DJ McKinney. This was a guy, OSU wasn't on the list, but I think he's going to challenge Cormani for that number 2 cornerback position. But I think he's going to play meaningful snaps for us regardless. In Oklahoma State, I think they were a double-digit win team this past year. So that's nice that we got, some guys like that. Cordell Russell, granted, TCU, I guess they didn't have a winning record this past year. Never mind. Preston Hodge, but and I think he'll play some significant snaps for us as well. Coming from Liberty, this was a team that ended up playing Oregon in a bowl game. Kentucky had a down year this year, but quarterback change, all of that. The Wade brothers, that they've been there while Kentucky has had some really good years recently. Let's see who else. And then, I guess it's kind of all up in the air from there. We have guys coming in from UConn or Houston or Cincinnati, teams that didn't have very good years. But a lot of the times, like I've said, I feel like I'm repeating myself a little bit. If you're more talented than the majority of the guys on your team, you'll probably enter the portal. We saw that happen with, for instance, a good example is Christian Gonzalez, a corner here, recruited, I believe, by Mel Tucker, started his freshman year, started his sophomore year, obviously, had some really good years here at Colorado. Terrible teams, though, and transferred out to Oregon for his junior year and, helped Oregon have a really good year. And because he was on a better team, he got first-round draft status. I don't know if that would have happened if he had stayed at Colorado, as much as that sucks to say. But I think you see some guys coming over here to want to hopefully create that same sort of NFL opportunity for themselves, like we saw with Christian Gonzalez leaving a bottom dweller in the Pac-12 to go to one of the top teams in the conference and, getting drafted by the Patriots. What was it, 17th, 18th overall? Something like that. But I think as long as you have guys on your team that have seen that standard, that have won, that understand it at some point within their careers, I think that's a positive thing that can help. But I think at the end of the day, it mainly just comes down to the coaches. And I think it is a positive thing that Shedeur has won a lot of games at Jackson State. I think that's definitely helpful. And it's going to be interesting to see who else establishes themselves as a leader. I think now that everybody isn't the new guy, we have guys that are returning players. That's very important for guys feeling more comfortable, feeling like they can lead. It's not just kind of everyone figuring it out all together. And so that's why I think you'll see a jump this year in productivity. But I understand that, people might have some different opinions on this. But I think it's worth bringing up. Because I think when you look at this past year, you could definitely argue that, like, hey, we didn't have nearly enough winners on this team. And I think that's very fair. When we saw that collapse happen against Stanford, that was honestly the turning point of the season. We never bounced back from that. We never really did. Now, I do think that we played well against like Utah to end the season. I thought that was a positive note to end the season on. But we never, overcame or battled through that adversity after Stanford. I think some of that has to do with, that loss goes on the coaches. I think that loss totally goes on coaching, and I think we learned a lot of lessons on kind of how you need to manage that when something like that happens. But yeah, curious to hear your thoughts on all this. I think that this is a wonderful question, and I think it's worth bringing up and talking about. But I will say, haven't played team sports in a heck of a long time, and I've never played at this level. So, curious if anybody has played at the college or NFL level. Talking about, if you guys feel like this is something to, consider. Do we have enough winners on this team, guys? Do we have enough winners? I sure hope so. I feel like BJ Green's a winning player, right? Even though Arizona State, they had one conference win this past year as well, right? I definitely feel like a guy like Samuel Okunlowa and Chidozie Nwankwo, these are winning players, but they just haven't had the opportunity to play on a team that has enough talent to win more games. So curious what you guys think with that. All right. But I thought this was an awesome question. So I'm gonna scroll back up here, see what you guys think. Okay, Vizzy, yeah, we got one guy from each of these programs, so that's a pretty interesting point. It's not like we're bringing in a roster from. It's not like we're grabbing guys from another Colorado, 30 guys from another Colorado in 2022, and telling them to come over here, right? Why my membership shows up as new, but it says 3 months. Well, I think you were part of it for a little while. So hey, maybe you now that you rejoined, appreciate that by the way. Um, maybe it's just giving you that credit in history. That doesn't matter. Y'all see how hard everyone is working. Yes. And I think the biggest thing that I see with really successful teams and programs is that they have that accountability, they have that coaching, they have that discipline. Uh, we do need players to help keep each other accountable for that, but at the end of the day, it starts with the coaches. See, Bus Dynasty saying you don't have to come from a winning program to be considered good. I think so as well. Like I think Zay Weaver is a winning player for us this past year, and USF they won like 2 games the year prior. And I'll say this, Jimmy Horn was a winning player for us this past year. Yes, struggled with focus and inconsistency, but he was one of our most clutch players on the year. Y'all don't want to hear that, but it's true. And he came from a 2-win program. JB saying, I think they're better players than previously, but the record is somewhat indicative of the talent level. And that's very true. Would I have higher expectations, for instance, for our offensive line if, we're bringing guys in, from winning programs, for instance, like Texas or Washington or Oklahoma or Alabama? Yes. And that's why, hey, if we can get to average play within the conference, average play within college football, I think we're going to see a nice big jump. But I think in order for us to get, to like the college football playoff, for instance, our offensive line or defensive line, one of them at least will probably need to be better than average. CU owns the Big 12. This is my hope. We're owning it in recruiting right now. That's for darn sure. Yeah, and I would say DMVU, Preston Hodge is definitely going to compete for that starting slot position, along with, Jaden Milner-Jones, Miles Slusher. I would probably put him in as like our starting slot guy. I think Cameron Silman Craig moves back to free safety. Yeah, most of the dudes from winning programs don't really play significant snaps, yes. But that's why I like to bring in some of those guys because they've at least seen how it looks, you know? So I'd like to bring in this guy from Michigan, that Atterbury guy. Or like if we can bring in some guys from Michigan, literally just to maybe play some rotational minutes and be studs on special teams, isn't that, that would be wonderful. Um, but I think with Sharon Moore being there, they're going to retain a lot of their talent. Yeah, and good point about Travis and Shador. I think they're winning players, but they were on a team, this past year that went 4-8. Good point. Good food. A lot of first year coaches went 4-8 unless they were lucky and inherited a good team like coaches like Nick Saban, Dan Lanning. Yes, this is a great point. The man above. When I was in one of my videos, somebody was talking about Cincinnati. They're like, hey, they went through a coaching change last year, so that's why you saw them take a step back, but they will be back, and they're a program that traditionally has been able to bounce back. But yeah, Prime's in a spot where he has to rebuild from scratch, and that can be easier said than done. Let's see. Hey Bishop, how's it going? Hey, appreciate your support, and hey, if you can say a prayer for our defensive coordinator, that is just going to be an awesome hire. Greatly appreciated. I do think Baby To will see the field as well. The man above saying they really got over under bet line at 3. No way. I'm putting a bank on it if that's the case. Free money 2 years in a row. Yeah, I think earlier today on that Scobuffs Daily Twitter space, they were saying it's at like 5.5 or something like that. I mean, right now, you got to think that we made a 3-game improvement from 1 win to 4 wins. Okay. If we make a 3-game improvement again, at minimum, that's 7 wins. That's over. That's over, right? We can at least make another 3-game jump, right? At minimum. I think like the goal should be 7 wins plus. See what Alfaru's saying. Dave talks buffs. I wonder if the team that got Wells or the tight end feel the way CU feels the O line players they got, since it's the same scenario. That's interesting. So you're talking about like Oregon State or San Diego State, because they got Van Wells and then Michael Harrison went to San Diego State. Yeah. I don't know. But I do think, oh no, it's tough with Van Wells. But I think he'll have a good year at Oregon State, considering they're playing a Mountain West schedule. Same with Michael Harrison. But yeah, I think Van Wells and some of those guys, they're better off probably playing a level down, so to speak. But also, again, guys, um, I still put most of that on Bill O'Boyle, man. Like there was food left on the table, right? With those guys, I really do believe that. Man, you crack me up. You crack me up, man. But y'all are gonna hear what you want to hear. Yeah, bowl game. Everything on top of that is gravy. But I want to see us win a lot of those closer games this year, right? We lost what, 5, 6 single digit score games, 1-score games. We got to win more of those this year. But hey, we don't, regardless of what you say about the hug, we don't win that CSU game without Jimmy. especially in that second half. And yeah, I saw this. Bill Boyle got hired by Northwestern. It was so funny. Like when that happened, maybe a few weeks ago, I put a tweet out that I said, to the 4 Northwestern fans that exist, you guys are screwed. And there was a Northwestern fan that clapped back at me on Twitter. It was awesome. And he said, "Hey, one of the 4 Northwestern fans here." And yeah, he's like, "What went wrong?" And I was like, "Man, it was just a bad fit." I don't think that he was one. I don't think Bill Boyle was interviewed by Coach Prime or interviewed at a very detailed level to understand if he was a good fit for the culture here. I think it was very clear he wasn't comfortable being around the cameras all the time like that. And I mean, when you look at the play again, Matt McChesney pointing this out halfway through the season, is just like these offensive linemen were not communicating with each other. And I understand, hey, if there's a guy in the line that's not doing it, but it seemed like it was everybody's. It was a theme with everybody. So if it's a theme with everybody where nobody's tough, nobody's communicating, right? I'm going to put the responsibility on the coach that, hey, you're just not getting these guys ready, right? But who knows? If he's working with better players, it's a better fit. He vibes with the head coach better, the offensive coordinator, whatever. Maybe it's better. But all I'm saying is that, hey, those Northwestern quarterbacks, just be ready. Be ready. All right, y'all. Yeah, last year's offensive linemen were soft, and I think, again, we're due to seeing improvement. I do think if I had to choose right now, which line will we see more improvement from? I think we'll see it from the offensive line. There are, just like in my video yesterday that I talked a little bit about with our defensive line, our edges, I mean, freaking awesome. I think they're going to be some of the best in the Big 12, like no doubt. Our interior, we just Chidoze Nwankwo, huge upgrade. But outside of that, we don't have a ton of like proven talent coming in here yet. That's what I would expect us to add throughout the spring and in the summer. Maybe a couple more interior guys or another inside linebacker. But it's looking a lot better than what we had this past year. And then you also got to expect guys like Amari McNeil. They're gonna make another jump. I mean, he's going into his junior year now, right? Or somebody like Brandon Davis Swain coming over here. I think he's already an early enrollee, correct? So he's a guy that I could see him playing meaningful minutes, at some of the interior positions of our defensive line. So, I think, and of course, this leaves room for a guy like Anquan Barnes, or I think you could put Quincy Wiggins, inside a little bit, right? I don't know. Or Torian Carter, to see those guys like make that jump. I think right now I would have our starting like interior, like defensive tackles as Nwankwo and Torian Carter. So, yeah. But anyways, y'all, I got a hot to a meeting. Thank you so much for tuning in. It really means a lot. And again, shout out to the man above. Happy to have you again as a member of the fellas. And you reminded me that I need to make more emojis for this channel. So y'all, please let me know what you think in the comments. Again, big shout out to Alpha Roo on, asking this question. And this was wonderful to do a little show about. So if there's anything that y'all really want me to comment on, give my take on, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. Or maybe I'll see you in the comments in the replay. So, hey, appreciate everybody. Have a wonderful day. Oh, and I'll be back with Truck and Chubby. He's having me on his channel tonight at 4:30 Mountain. So please be sure to tune in for that if y'all don't have anything else going on. So until then, guys, appreciate it. And let's go Buffs.